Hello everybody. A lot of people wanted to know about my E46 catch can installation and exactly how it was done. So the can routing is on some other videos. You can see how typically I just mount it right there because it works. And it's got a full mount, I just hadn't figured out where to put it yet. So here's the way that I did the installation. I'm not going to cover, obviously, taking off all the stuff up there. If you can't figure out how to get your car to this part, you shouldn't even try this at all. Basically, I removed the cabin filter and stuff up here and the one engine cover. The other one's still in place. Don't need to take that off. So what you do, you remove your air inlet distribution piece, okay, which goes into these holes. You'll notice we have stock crankcase vent valve hose here that distributes across here. That's factory. I didn't touch that. That's an OEM piece, brand new hose. Don't have to mess with that. Matter of fact, that's why I like this method. It's easier. You can see all I've done is pulled the OEM hose. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Stay. Oh, come on, stay. Where'd my hose go? I had a piece. Here we are. Oh, great. I just dropped it down in my car. That sucks. I hate it when that happens. Okay, well, so the OEM hoses came off of this end here, and that's the one that's a real pain in the butt that goes between your 1 and 2 intake runner and goes down underneath the intake to the crankcase vent valve. So that's that hose. All I did was take a pair of pliers. I held this piece with my hand, grabbed the hose with my pliers, twisted, and well, this thing doesn't want to focus. Twisted and pulled with a pair of pliers. The hose separated from the connection, so I was able to maintain the stock connection here, stock connection here. Then I just took a piece of 5/8 hose, it fits perfectly around this, and a clamp, and clamped it down. On the valve cover side, which is this connection, it's 3/4 inch hose, which is why, and the 3/4 inch hose fits the factory connection as well. The difference here, and you'll notice this, the factory connection on the valve cover, for those of you who are astute, will say, hey, the valve cover connection is also a 90-degree bend like the air distribution inlet hose. And you are correct. So what you do there is I took my Dremel and Dremeled it off right here to make it dead straight. That leaves you enough room to make it look just like this. Okay? So again, Dremeled it off straight, connected it there with a clamp, piece of 3/4 hose to my 3/4 to 5/8 shrinker adapter, whatever you want to call it. Got that at AutoZone. Advanced Auto Parts didn't carry them. They had to go to AutoZone. So that's what that is. And then it's 5/8 hose the rest of the way. And then I have to neck it down because my catch can has small fittings. I had to neck it down from 5/8 to 3/8 and then onto my catch can. So that's how that hose routes and how I got that connection. And that's a really simple connection. It goes, oh, sorry, I'm doing this with one hand. It goes from there to the end on the catch can. Just like that. Now I tuck it down here in between so it's easier and doesn't get in the way of my intake or my cold air intake. But that's as easy as that is. And then the other part of this piece is this, which is the connection, again, 5/8 to 3/8 adapter, so that this piece can then connect to the catch can itself. But here is where I've installed the PCV valve. This is the one from O'Reilly Auto Parts. There's a part number in the post somewhere in this thread that this is on, and all I did was clamp it on one side, and actually I put a clamp on this side too, but you can actually just screw it in there. It screws in perfectly. It's actually quite snug. You probably wouldn't even need a clamp, but I'll go ahead and clamp that as well. And that leads there. Make sure when you do this that the flow of the PCV valve lets air go that way, but not that way, okay? So the threaded end goes towards the intake manifold, as to keep any potential backfire, not that I would have it, from going backwards from the intake backwards through the catch can and back into my crankcase where it could do some damage. So that's the only reason that's there. This in itself was actually one of the reasons why I didn't bother to make the catch can connections bigger, because this limits vacuum. You know, it's only, you can see even with 5/8 hose, it's only those 3 little tiny openings that allow air to come through it. So, you know, I didn't feel the need, given that this was the main choke point anyways, that it was all that big of a deal. Come on, focus. That it was all that big of a deal. So to put it together, I'm going to try and do this one-handed so everybody can see just exactly how I did this. So you've got this part rigged up. This is quite possibly the easiest piece. And you don't even have to remove your stock crankcase vent valve, by the way, for this to work. What I did was, you can remove this hose without taking the vent valve off. You just reach down, and if you've ever done it, you know you have to kind of finagle the piece this way, because it actually twist and then pull out. So combination of that and reaching through the front, I did take this off when I did it the first time to give myself a little more room. I was able to get that hose off no problem. The only other thing that I can't show you is there's a cap on the end of the dipstick where the crankcase vent valve runs down into the hose that runs from the bottom of the vent valve to the dipstick. It's a 3/8 cap. No, it fits perfectly, by the way. There's no clamp or anything on it because it's vacuum. It's going to suck the cap down onto the deal. So you really shouldn't need to clamp it off. I mean, you certainly could if you wanted to. You could pull your dipstick out and do it up real nice. I chose not to. So the way to install this is really, really, really simple. So again, we've left stock connections. I replaced all the O-rings on these fittings because they have 200,000 miles on them. Take and you snake the hose down in between the valve cover, between the 1 and 2 intake runner, just like you would with the stock crankcase vent valve. And then I don't know if this is going to show because it's dark, but the hose comes out right here, okay? Then from up top, I know this is shaky, guys, and I apologize profusely, but I ain't got no cameraman. So then you just take this, line it back up, make sure all your wires are out of the way, and you line up your fittings. Make sure that the clamp, I don't know if you can see it, kind of have to make sure that clamp rotates out of the way right there, and then just push. Hope y'all realize I took this apart for no apparent reason, just to show you this. So once that's taken apart, grab your phone with your dirty hand, and there are 4 Torx screws. I might have actually cross-threaded that one a little bit. I don't really care though. And there's 4 little fittings. I mean, it's not hard to do. This is pretty self-explanatory. Okay. 2 more. One right. It's right there. Yeah. Very tedious doing this one-handed. And so this allows you to keep everything factory on the vacuum side of the intake as far as the equalizer tube goes. Excuse me, I don't even know honestly what this equalizer does. I guess it has something to do with vacuum. Obviously it has something to do with vacuum, I mean I don't know the exact purpose of it. Obviously it's connected to the stock crankcase vent valve. Okay, so when you have that portion done, what I do is take your clamp, slide it over the 5/8 hose, making sure that you can get to the end. And then all you do is twist Probably can't see this, but I'm literally just twisting it. And it walks all the way down till it bottoms out, making that a very firm connection. And we'll take and tighten up our clamp, which I can't do with one hand. Excuse me, golly. For me, I just take it from there, run it up to the catch can. That's your vacuum side. My gosh, I swallowed something wrong. And then you take your other hose. Again, I slide it right in between there and there. Connect it there. Connect it there. And that's it. My gosh, I have completely eliminated the stock crankcase valve. And it really runs well. I don't have any problems with it. So I really think that it's a good mod. If you want to, I mentioned this the other day, you could put one of these on. This is a for an air compressor. It's a filter to keep water out of your air tools. You hook it up like this. These are 1/4-inch fittings, so it does reduce the vacuum some. So if you're worried about too much vacuum, one of these reduces it. This helps. I put this in line actually right here and then connected it just to see what additional sludge I might catch. And before I had put more media in my can, there was some stuff getting through. Now there's hardly anything getting through. This isn't needed, but you will notice I capped it. There's a schrader valve on the bottom of this thing. If you use one of these, I've seen people use this as a catch can. There's a bigger one with 3/8 fittings that is $23. You could easily use that as a catch can. Put some steel Brillo stuff in the middle. Boom, you'd have a catch can. But they have schrader valves here, and the schrader valves are under pressure to come out to let the air escape or the water escape when you're under pressure, when it's connected. But since it's under vacuum, it actually will pull the schrader valve open. So I took the schrader valve out with my schrader valve wrench and just capped it off with a cap and a clamp. So don't forget, if you use one of these either for your catch can or you decide to put it in line for additional filtering, make sure you cap off the schrader valve, otherwise the amount of vacuum that you get will open it slightly, cause a vacuum leak. So that's it. There you go. There's my oil catch can in a nutshell. I hope you've enjoyed this shaky ass video, and I apologize for that. If you have any questions, you can get me on Vimmerfest, DHP Mafia, or post them in the comments section. Thanks everybody.